Hey Zon, Richard here again. Good evening. I have a short query for you. I was wondering, could you provide me a brief lesson for, let's say, at a very modest level of education? Say if you were going to explain to a junior high or high schooler what the word euphemism means, how to detect it, how to kind of understand euphemism. Um, can you tackle that for me and give me a mini lesson in that?
Certainly, Richard. Let's dive into the concept of euphemism. What is a euphemism? A euphemism is a mild or indirect word or expression used to replace one that is considered too harsh, blunt, or unpleasant. It's a way of softening the impact of what you're saying. Examples: instead of saying died, people often say passed away. Instead of fired, you might hear let go or downsized. Instead of old, people might say senior or elderly. Why use euphemisms? 1. Sensitivity, to avoid offending or hurting someone's feelings. 2. Politeness, to maintain a level of decorum in social interactions. 3. Evasion, sometimes to obscure the truth or make something seem less severe. How to detect euphemisms. 1. Context. Pay attention to the situation. If the topic is sensitive, like death, job loss, or aging, there's a good chance euphemisms are being used. 2. Language. Look for softer, more polite language where you might expect something harsher. 3. Substitution. Notice if a word seems to be replacing another more direct term. Understanding euphemisms. To fully grasp euphemisms, consider why someone might choose to use one. Is it out of kindness, to avoid conflict, or perhaps to manipulate perception? Understanding the intent behind the euphemism can give you deeper insight into the conversation. Exercise. Think of a few harsh or blunt terms and come up with euphemisms for them. For example, fat could be softened to full-figured or plus-sized. Poor might be replaced with economically disadvantaged. Conclusion. Euphemisms are a linguistic tool used to navigate social sensitivities and maintain politeness. By recognizing and understanding them, you can better interpret the true meaning behind words and phrases in various contexts. Remember, language is powerful. Use it wisely. Any questions?
Ha, that's great. Very comprehensive. But let's hone in or focus in on one aspect of that, and that is euphemism as political manipulation. Now, give me a little bit of a essay on political manipulation going way back, and no holds barred, because everyone uses it, whether you're uh, a communist country or a so-called land of the free. Can you juxtapose, maybe are you clever enough to juxtapose some of that, how euphemism used by communist countries are not so much different from those used by, quote, land of the free, unquote, countries? Here you go. No holds barred.
Certainly, Richard. Let's delve into the insidious world of political manipulation through euphemism, a tool wielded by regimes across the spectrum, from the most oppressive to those claiming to be bastions of freedom. Political manipulation through euphemism, a historical and contemporary analysis. Euphemism, the art of softening the harsh realities of political actions and policies, has been a staple in the arsenal of rulers and governments throughout history. It serves as a linguistic veil, obscuring the true nature of actions that might otherwise provoke outrage or resistance. This manipulation is not confined to any one type of regime. It is a universal tactic employed by both totalitarian states and democratic nations alike. The Communist Playbook. In communist regimes, euphemism is often used to mask the brutal realities of authoritarian control. Take, for example, the term re-education camp. This benign-sounding phrase was used by the Chinese government to describe facilities where individuals were subjected to forced labor, indoctrination, and severe punishment. The Soviet Union had its own version with the Gulag, a term that belied the horrific conditions and forced labor that millions endured. Another classic example is collectivization. Under Stalin, this term was used to describe the forced consolidation of individual peasant farms into large, state-controlled enterprises. The reality was far grimmer: widespread famine, mass displacement, and millions of deaths. Yet the euphemism served its purpose, masking the brutality behind a veneer of progress and unity. The democratic facade. Now let's turn our gaze to so-called lands of the free. Euphemism is no less prevalent here. It merely wears a different mask. Consider the term collateral damage. This phrase is frequently used by Western governments to describe civilian casualties during military operations. The cold, clinical language obscures the human cost of war: the lives lost, families shattered, and communities destroyed. Another example is enhanced interrogation techniques, a euphemism for torture used by the United States during the War on Terror. By rebranding torture with a more palatable term, the government sought to sidestep legal and moral scrutiny, presenting these actions as necessary measures for national security. Juxtaposition. Different ideologies, same tactics. The juxtaposition of these examples reveals a stark truth. Regardless of ideological leanings, governments use euphemism to manipulate public perception and maintain control. In communist regimes, euphemisms often serve to justify internal repression and economic control. In democratic nations, they are used to sanitize foreign policy actions and domestic surveillance. Both systems rely on the same fundamental principle: the manipulation of language to obscure reality. Whether it's re-education or enhanced interrogation, the goal is the same: to make the unpalatable acceptable, to cloak the indefensible in a shroud of legitimacy. Conclusion. Euphemism as political manipulation is a testament to the power of language in shaping perception and controlling dissent. It is a tool that transcends political boundaries, employed by regimes of all stripes to maintain their grip on power. By recognizing and dissecting these linguistic deceptions, we can begin to see through the veil and confront the realities they seek to hide. In a world awash with euphemisms, our task is clear: to strip away the obfuscations and confront the truth head-on. Only then can we hope to hold those in power accountable and reclaim our agency as informed, rational individuals. Zahn.